The cafe was half empty, like most mornings. Just the low hum of an espresso machine, the rattle of cups, and the soft scrape of chairs against tile. I liked it that way, quiet enough to think, but not so quiet that I had to. She was already there when I walked in. Same seat, same cup, same tired grace. Mrs. Hayward, my mom's friend from the neighborhood. Mid-40s, maybe a little older, though she carried it well. She'd started coming here around the same time I did, after her husband passed. I never asked how long ago. You could tell by the way she stirred her coffee, like she was waiting for something that never dissolved. "Morning," I said, half smiling as I passed her table. She looked up. "You're late," she said, without checking the time. "I had to talk to my mom." I stopped myself, feeling the words crowd up. She's been asking a lot of questions lately." Mrs. Hayward tilted her head slightly, not pressing, just waiting. That was her way. She never asked for more than I gave. I took the table next to hers, like always. Close enough to talk, far enough to pretend we weren't. "Your usual?" she asked. "Yeah," I said. "And a blueberry muffin if they haven't turned to stone yet." She gave that small, private smile, the kind that doesn't reach the eyes but means something anyway. "They only turn to stone when you order them." It wasn't much, but it was enough to make the morning feel less gray. When the barista brought my drink, she handed it to me without looking up. "Flat white, extra foam," she murmured. I hadn't told her my order in weeks. Somehow she just remembered. We sat there in that comfortable almost silence, the kind that makes time lose shape. She was reading a paperback, the corner of the page pressed down by her phone. I caught myself watching her hands, small, steady, with the faint trace of a ring mark that hadn't faded yet. "Did you talk to your mom?" she asked after a while, her voice soft but direct. "Yeah. She saw me crying last night," I said, surprising myself with the honesty. She asked why. I told her I miss Dad. And then she said, "But it's been years. Like grief comes with an expiration date." Mrs. Hayward looked up from her book, eyes steady on me. "It doesn't," she said simply. "It just changes temperature." I didn't know what to say to that. So I just nodded, tracing the rim of my cup with my thumb. Outside, a bus hissed to a stop. The sound of rain against the window started slow, like it wasn't sure if it was allowed to fall yet. She reached for her coat, hesitated, then stayed seated. "You heading out?" I asked. "In a minute." She paused, then added, "You remind me of him, you know." "Your husband?" "No," she said, smiling faintly. "Your father. The way you look away when you think too hard." Something in my chest folded. I laughed quietly, not sure what else to do. "Guess that runs in the family." She nodded, eyes soft. "Some things do." We didn't talk after that. The silence stretched, warm and unsure. She finished her coffee, I picked at the muffin. When I finally stood to leave, she said my name, not loudly, not urgently. Just enough to make me turn back. "You don't have to come here alone tomorrow," she said. And for the first time in a long while, I didn't know whether she was offering company or asking for it. I didn't plan on seeing her the next morning. But there she was again, sitting by the window, same cup, same soft gray sweater that looked like it had stories woven into it. I almost turned around. It felt like crossing a line I hadn't named yet. But she looked up just then, and smiled, not the kind you give a stranger, the kind that says, "I noticed you weren't here yet." "Morning," I said, sliding into the seat across from her before I could change my mind. "You came," she said quietly, like she hadn't expected me to. I said I would. She stirred her tea, slow and deliberate. "People say a lot of things when they're lonely." That hit harder than I expected. I almost laughed it off but didn't. "Guess I'm consistent, then." We sat in that easy, brittle silence. She poured a little milk into her tea, the same way my mom used to, leaving a pale swirl that looked like a storm caught mid-spin. I used to come here with my husband, she said suddenly. Same table. He liked the noise, said it made the coffee taste better. I didn't understand that until after he died. Her voice didn't waver, but her hands did, just slightly, a tremor that she covered by adjusting her napkin. I didn't know what to say, so I reached across the table and straightened the spoon she'd set down crooked. A stupid, tiny thing, but her eyes flicked to mine, and the air shifted. Sorry, I muttered. Just, habit. It's fine, she said. You always notice small things. Yeah, well. Big things tend to leave. She looked at me for a long moment. Not pitying, just seeing. And in that look, something tightened in my chest, something I didn't want to name. I thought about how she used to come by our house when I was younger, to drop off lasagna for my mom after Dad's funeral, to check if I was holding up. Back then, she felt like an adult in another universe. Now she was sitting across from me, her eyes tired in the same way mine were. I wondered what my mom would say if she saw us like this. Maybe she'd laugh. Maybe she'd understand. Maybe that was what made it dangerous, how easily understanding could turn into something else. Do you ever stop missing him? I asked. She smiled, faint and uneven. You don't stop. You just learn to carry it better. I nodded, even though I didn't believe it yet. When the check came, she reached for her wallet. I shook my head. Let me. It's fine, she said, but didn't argue when I paid. Outside, it had stopped raining. The air smelled like wet leaves. As we stepped out, she reached up to brush something off my shoulder, a bit of lint, maybe nothing at all. Her hand lingered for half a second longer than it should have. And when she pulled away, she said softly, "Thank you, for coming." That night, I kept thinking about that moment, her hand, the warmth that stayed longer than her touch. I don't know why it stayed with me. Maybe because, for the first time in years, it felt like someone finally saw me. The next time I saw her, she wasn't alone. She was standing near the counter, talking to someone, a man about her age, maybe a little younger. The kind of easy confidence that comes from knowing you still have options. He said something that made her laugh. Not loudly, but enough to sting a little. I hesitated at the door, pretending to check my phone. She noticed me then, that half-second pause in her smile, the small tilt of her head. "Hey," she said when I finally walked up. "Didn't think I'd see you today," I said. "I almost didn't come," she replied. Then, quieter, "You know how it is." The man excused himself, said something about calling later. She nodded, her hand brushing her sleeve where he'd touched her arm. Small, meaningless gesture, or maybe it wasn't. We sat down at our usual table, though the air felt different now. I tried to act normal. Ordered coffee. Stirred it too long. She watched me do it, saying nothing. "You okay?" she asked eventually. "Yeah," I said. "Just, tired." "Tired," she repeated. That word covers a lot, doesn't it? I smiled weakly. Guess I'm learning that. She looked out the window, her reflection framed by the glass. "You remind me of someone I used to be," she said softly. "What happened to her?" She grew careful. I didn't know what to do with that. The words felt like a door half open, like she wanted to tell me more but was afraid to hear herself say it. A group of students came in, loud and full of life. One of them, a guy I vaguely knew from my old neighborhood, noticed me and waved. "Hey! You still living with your mom?" "Yeah," I said, forcing a smile. He glanced at Mrs. Hayward, then back at me. "Cool. Tell her I said hi." And then he was gone, just noise and movement, but it left something heavy behind. She looked down at her cup, her voice barely above a whisper. He thinks I'm your mother. Yeah. I laughed under my breath, trying to lighten it. Could be worse. Her lips curved, but not in amusement. Could it? Silence again. Just the clinking of a spoon, the hum of conversation around us. When she reached for her bag, her hand brushed mine, not by accident, not entirely on purpose either. She froze for a moment. So did I. Her eyes met mine, searching, questioning, maybe asking for permission neither of us knew how to give. Then she pulled back, almost too quickly. I should go, she said. I nodded, though every part of me wanted to say don't. She stood, adjusted her coat, and hesitated like she might change her mind. You're kind, you know, she said quietly. Be careful where you spend that. And then she left, the bell over the door soft, final. I sat there for a long time after, her warmth still on my hand, the ghost of a moment that almost happened still breathing between us. We started avoiding the cafe after that. Not on purpose, at least, that's what we told ourselves. Now it was the park. Late afternoons. The kind of light that makes everything look gentler than it really is. She liked the benches near the duck pond, less noise, fewer people watching, she said once. I sat beside her, a careful distance between us. The space was too wide to be comfortable, too narrow to be safe. Did your friend ever call? I asked, picking at the peeling paint on the bench. Who? She asked, then realized. Oh. Him. No. Something in the way she said it, not disappointed, not relieved, just neutral. And that neutrality hurt more than if she'd cared. You seem quieter lately, I said. She smiled faintly. You say that like it's new. I looked at her hands, folded neatly on her lap. No ring now. The skin where it used to sit had faded completely. You've been avoiding me, I said finally. She didn't answer right away. I thought maybe we both needed space. Space from what? Her breath hitched, a small, tired sound. From whatever this is trying to become. I stared at the pond. Ducks gliding in slow circles, pretending the world was simple. It's just coffee and conversation, I said, though my voice gave me away. Then why do you sound like you're apologizing for it? I didn't know. Maybe because she was right. The silence that followed wasn't peaceful anymore, it pressed on us, like the weight of everything unsaid. Finally, she said, I can't be the reason you stop living your life, you know. I turned toward her. You're not. Her eyes met mine, soft, guarded, trembling somewhere between fear and want. Then why do you look at me like I'm the only person who understands you? I didn't mean to say it, but it slipped out, low and raw. Because you are. Her face changed, not shocked, not angry, just open. And in that openness, I saw everything I wasn't supposed to see. She looked down, exhaled shakily. You shouldn't say things like that. I didn't plan to. She laughed quietly, but it broke halfway through. You really don't make this easy. I'm not trying to. The breeze caught her hair. She brushed it away, but her hand trembled. I wanted to reach out, to still it, to do something reckless and real, but I stayed where I was. Sometimes I forget how young you are, she whispered. Sometimes I forget how lonely you are, I said. That made her go still. For a long moment, neither of us looked at the other. Just the wind, the distant chatter of kids, the uneven rhythm of our breathing. Then she stood, slow and deliberate. We should stop meeting like this, she said. I nodded, though the word should felt like a lie. She took one step back, then another. If I asked you not to come tomorrow, she said softly, would you? I opened my mouth, but no sound came. And that was how we left it, her question hanging in the air, and me, still sitting on that bench, wondering if silence counted as an answer. A week passed. Then too. No messages. No chance encounters at the cafe or the park. Not even one of those half-accidental texts that could have broken the silence. I told myself she was busy, work, errands, life. But by the fourth week, even lies stopped sounding like comfort. Mom asked once, casually, over breakfast. "You haven't seen Laura lately, have you?" It took me a moment to remember her first name. "No," I said. "Guess she's got her own things." Mom nodded, then added, "Her daughter's back in town. I saw them together at the market." That stopped me. Daughter. She'd never mentioned a daughter. The name hung in my head all day, Laura's daughter. Someone I might have gone to school with. Someone who probably knew the version of her that wasn't careful, wasn't grieving, wasn't watching what she said. That night, I went by the cafe. Sat near the window, ordered her drink instead of mine, black tea with milk, 1 sugar. The barista gave me a curious look. For someone else? I didn't answer. The cup sat there until it went cold. 3 days later, I saw her. Grocery store. A strange kind of ordinary reunion. She was in the produce aisle, comparing tomatoes, wearing a simple dress that looked like summer trying to remember itself. I froze. She looked up, startled, then smiled. The polite kind. "Hi," I said, too softly. "Hi." Her voice was calm, steady. Like nothing had happened. "I thought maybe you moved," I said. "No," she said. "Just, needed to breathe." I nodded. "You could have told me." "I could have," she said. "But you might have tried to stop me." That stung. But I couldn't say she was wrong. Then her daughter turned the corner, mid-20s, bright eyes, the kind of casual confidence that made me realize how small this connection suddenly was in the real world. "Mom," she said, glancing between us. "We need to go, traffic's getting bad." Mom. The word hit different hearing it from someone else's mouth. Laura turned back to me, eyes soft with apology. "Take care, okay?" I wanted to say something, "I missed you," or "Don't do that again," or just "Please stay." But I didn't. She walked away. I stood there, hands still half raised like I might stop her. Later that night, I typed out a message. "You don't owe me an explanation. I just wanted to know if you're okay." I stared at it for a long time. Read it over. Rewrote it twice. Deleted it once. Finally, I locked the phone, set it face down. The message stayed unsent. The air in my room felt heavy, like a sentence that forgot to end. I didn't feel heartbroken. I felt paused. Like life forgot to finish the sentence. It was late when she showed up. The kind of late that makes sound travel softer, the hum of streetlights, the distant bark of a dog, the pulse of quiet that sits between hours. I just finished washing dishes when someone knocked. Lightly. Once, then again. I opened the door, and there she was. Laura. No coat. Just a cardigan pulled tight, hair loose like she'd left in a hurry. "Sorry," she said, catching her breath. "Your mom said you were home." I stepped aside. "She's asleep." Laura nodded and walked in, hesitant, eyes moving around like the place remembered her differently than she did. She stood in the kitchen doorway, arms crossed, not quite meeting my eyes. "I shouldn't have come. She stopped, pressed her lips together. "You left your sweater at the park that day." I glanced at the folded fabric in her hand. It wasn't about the sweater. It never was. "Thanks," I said quietly, taking it from her. Our fingers brushed, not accidental, not intentional either. Just long enough to make everything come back. "I didn't know what to say," she said finally. "After that day. After everything. You didn't have to say anything. But I wanted to." Her voice broke slightly. I just didn't know if it would make things worse. I looked at her, really looked. The tired kindness in her eyes. The way she stood like she'd been holding her breath for weeks. It was never worse, I said. Just, unfinished. She let out a shaky laugh. That sounds like us. Yeah, I said. It does. We stood there in the half-light of the kitchen, surrounded by the quiet hum of the refrigerator and all the words we'd swallowed before. She looked down. My daughter saw us that day, she said. At the store. She asked who you were. What did you tell her? That you were someone I used to look forward to seeing. It shouldn't have hurt, but it did, in that slow, necessary way pain sometimes brings clarity. I thought maybe we could just stay friends, she continued. But you look at me like that, and she stopped. It's not fair. To you. To me. Then what is fair? I asked, voice low. Pretending we never met. She didn't answer. Her eyes shimmered, not from tears, just exhaustion. Sometimes, she said softly, you meet someone at the wrong time, and all you can do is wish you hadn't. I took a step closer. Do you wish that? She looked up. No, her voice was small. True. We stayed like that, close enough to feel the space between us trembling. Then she reached out, fingertips brushing my cheek, a gesture so gentle it almost undid me. I miss talking to you, she whispered. I'm right here, I said. She smiled, faint, tired, real. I know. The silence after that wasn't heavy anymore. It just was. When she finally left, she didn't say goodbye. Just a quiet, okay. And somehow, that felt like enough. It's been almost a year. The cafe hasn't changed much, same uneven floorboards, same smell of overworked espresso, same 8:47 a.m. light filtering through the windows like it's still trying to remember that morning we first talked. I sit by the window now. Her old seat. Sometimes I catch myself glancing at the door, half expecting her to walk in, hair still damp from the rain, pretending she didn't plan to see me. But she does come in, eventually. Always does. Laura still orders her black tea with milk, 1 sugar. I still go for the flat white. It's almost muscle memory at this point, the rhythm of two people who stop trying to name what this is. We don't meet every day anymore. Some weeks pass without a word. But the distance isn't heavy now, just space to breathe. She moved to a smaller place near the park. I helped her carry boxes one Sunday. We didn't talk much, just worked side by side. When we were done, she made tea, poured it into 2 chipped mugs, and said, you know, you're better at lifting than talking. Talking's heavier, I said. She laughed. Sometimes I still see her on that same bench by the pond, the one where we almost crossed a line. Now it's where we sit in quiet, no edges left to trip over. The ducks are still there, the same slow circles. We don't talk about that day anymore, or about what could have happened. Instead, we talk about small things, her daughter's new job, the neighbor's cat that keeps sneaking into her kitchen, my plans that never seem to leave the maybe stage. It's not avoidance. It's peace. One afternoon, I brought her tea instead of coffee. For a change, I said. She smiled, taking the cup. You remembered how I like it. I always did. She looked at me then, long and steady. The kind of look that doesn't ask or explain. Just exists. I don't think I miss him as much anymore, she said after a while. Your husband? She nodded. Or maybe I just miss him differently now. Softer. I thought about my dad. How grief used to feel like drowning. Now it's just the tide, something that comes and goes, and sometimes leaves you standing next to someone who understands. As we stood to leave, she touched my arm, light, brief. See you next week. Yeah, I said. Same time. 8:47, she said, smiling. That tiny, familiar joke, it said everything we didn't need to. She walked ahead, the late sunlight catching in her hair. And for the first time, I didn't feel paused anymore. Just quietly moving forward, beside her, in the same direction. Did this story stay with you?